Hello and welcome to the Now Spinning Magazine podcast with me, Phil Aston. Now, today's guest is part of one of the most important stories in music history. From the streets of Detroit to stages all over the world, he's helped create a sound that's changed soul music, shaped Motown, and become part of the soundtrack to millions of lives. As the founding and sole surviving member of the original member of the Temptations, he's witnessed and helped lead over 6 decades of musical evolution. Songs like My Girl, Papa's Rolling Stone, Ain't Too Proud to Beg. They're not just classic records, they're part of musical history. But behind the harmonies and the dancing and everything else, the timeless performances, is a remarkable personal story, from growing up in Texas to arriving in Detroit during the birth of Motown and helping to build one of the greatest vocal groups of all time. His journey is extraordinary. His autobiography inspired the Emmy Award miniseries, The Temptations, and more recently, hugely successful Broadway production, Ain't Too Proud, The Life and Times of the Temptations, which introduced the Temptations and music to a whole new generation. It is my absolute honor to welcome Dr. Otis Williams to the Now Spinning Magazine podcast. Welcome.
Well, thank you, sir. How you feel?
I'm fine, thank you very much. Now, before I know you've got some UK dates coming up. I've got Edinburgh on the 29th of June, Liverpool on the 30th of June, Bournemouth the 1st of July, the Royal Albert Hall on the 3rd of July, and then the Love Supreme Festival on the 4th of July. But I just want to, if I can, roll back a little bit to an early part of your life, because I know you've spoken about the importance of your grandparents and the Baptist church and your upbringing, but I just wanted to know, did those early values shape the way you approach life and music later on?
Yes, it did. I was raised primarily by two wonderful grandmothers.
Yeah.
One was in Texas, and my mother's mother, she was in Detroit. And my mother brought me from Texas when I was young. But grandmothers, mine anyway, I'll speak for myself because, everybody's got their own philosophy, how they want to raise their child. Mine was very religious, gospel-like, and somewhat of a disciplinarian.
Yeah.
Especially my grandmother down south, my mother's mother in Detroit, she would spin the yoke. She would tell me philosophy and tell me this and that. Mama Gooden down in Birmingham, she would warn me, whatever. But if I didn't do what she said, and she would give me enough warming, she would light me up like a Christmas tree, So I love them because I adhere to what they taught me today. And I'm 84. But then when you're raised by the kind of wonderful grandmothers that I had, it'll carry on through the rest of my life. So I'm very blessed.
Wonderful. Now, Detroit in the 1950s was alive with music, cars, ambition, culture. Did you sense at the time that something historic was going on, or were you just living your life and not necessarily aware of it?
Well, see, my mother brought me up from Texarkana when I must have been about like 11, 12 years old.
Yeah.
See, being born in Texarkana, and I was kind of raised on a farm, and then you come to the big city of Detroit where everything is fleeting, moving fast, the tempo is moving. And I had to change my frame of reference because, like I said, I came from a different ilk of life. But I'm glad I learned because at that time when my mother brought me to Detroit in the early 50s, mid 50s, I was raised on listening to gospel music. And when I got to Detroit, rock and roll was just beginning to take off.
Cool.
So I would hear all this here, Chuck Berry, Elvis Presley, and Jackie Wilson, and who else? The Hank Ballard and the Midnighters. No, a whole other kind of genre of music, and that was the turning point of what I wanted to do. Like I've always said, Fox Theater is the second largest indoor theater in America. And when I saw that rock and roll show going on there with all those people going goo goo gaga, what was happening, I said, that's what I want to do. And here I am, 84, and I'm still doing the same thing.
Wow, so inspirational, Otis, so inspirational. I know there were several earlier groups. There was Otis Williams and the Siberians, The Distance, but there's all this almost mythical quality of the story that you talk about meeting Berry Gordy performing Come On. Did
Ah,
you? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. We were at a place called St. Stephen's Community Center. Back during those days, disc jockeys, they would play your records, but you would have to do record hops for them. And I guess people say, what's a record hop? Record hop is whereas on the weekend, it could be even Thursday, but definitely Friday, Saturday, and sometimes Sunday, depending on the disc jockey, he would call you out to come to do a show in favor of him continuing to play your record. So this one particular time we were at St. Stephen's Community Center, and Frantic Ernie Durham was the disc jockey. And our record in Detroit, Come On, was so hugely popular. They kept calling us back to come back to the stage to do it again, do it again. So there came a point that Frantic Ernie Durham said, well, fellas, we got somebody else that's coming on. And I could see Smoke and the Miracles and Berry Gordy from afar, but they were coming and I said, wow, that's Smoke and the Miracles and Berry Gordy. So when I came off finally, when they finally let us off, I'm standing there watching the show. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Gordy said, I like your guys' record. Come see me. I'm starting my own label. And that was 1961. We signed with Motown. In fact, I still have my first contract my mother had to sign for me because I was too young to sign for myself. And from that point on, Motown, little by little, began to take shape of being a powerhouse. And now they are just about to complete, 1, 2, 3, I think a 4-story building adjacent to the two family flats homes that's still there.
Yeah.
Never would imagine that Motown would take on that kind of position and power to have a big, beautiful company built like what's happening now. So it's God's plan. I give it to him first, and then Barry and everybody else after him.
Yeah, I've got to ask this question because obviously you're very young when you had the recording contract and your mom signed it for you. But yes. Was it like you were so excited? You went, I'm signing this, and your mom was going, hang on a minute, Otis, I need to check this.
Well, unfortunately, Detroit at the time didn't have noted entertainment lawyers. Detroit has primarily been, the big three, Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler. Now they had a few attorneys there that, okay, I guess we thought they knew about contracts, recording contracts. So we went and looked at it, had the attorney, oh yeah, just a basic contract, no problem, just a basic contract. So we signed it.
Yeah.
But life is ever learning. Little did we know that we would be signing with a company that would take on a whole nother hue.
Yeah. The lineup, the classic lineup comes together with David Ruffin as well. And one of the things I want to talk about the Temptations, though, because it's not just the fantastic voices and the songs that how you work with Motown, it's the dancing. I mean, was that there straight away as part of it?
What? I will always give Paul Williams the credit for that. Now, all of us were 6-footers and slim, I guess I'm safe in saying nice looking young guys. Yeah. But Paul was such a noted dancer that he said one day as we started to come together more and more, he said, now we're not going to be the kind of group just come out there and stand and sing. He said, no, we're going to have excitement. We got to have movement. And I never will forget, Eddie was in the group, Eddie Kendricks, Al Bryant, this is before David Ruffin.
Yeah.
Melvin and myself. Eddie said, Paul, I can't dance, man. I'm too stiff. And he said, don't worry about it. We call him Corn because he loved cornbread. And he said, don't worry, what I'm going to show you, you'll be able to do. And when we started rehearsing, we became noted for our choreography.
Yeah.
And I have credit to the late, great Paul Williams.
Yeah, because that really makes you stand out. When I was talking to Lawrence Payton from the Four Tops, he said, we've got good voices, but no one dances like the Temptations.
Yeah, I didn't know I could move like at that time, because most groups would stand there and sing you into the ground. They stand there and sing, but now Paul said, no, we're going to be more than just stand there and sing. And I'm just blessed and happy that I had that kind of talented guys around me.
Yeah. Sure. Brilliant. Now, My Girl was the breakthrough song. When you first heard that song, did you know it was special? Did you know it was kind of open doors?
I must say, Smokey came to see us at the 20 Grand, and he was marveling over what he saw of us on stage. And he said, he stopped as he was just saying, man, you guys tall, nice looking, and you move real good. Then he stopped and he looked at David Ruffin. And at that time, Al was no longer in the group. David was. He said, man, I have a song for you. So us being young, because we were like 22, 21.
Yeah.
We said, man, bring it on. We can sing anything. We went to the Apollo. Smokey and the Miracles was headlining.
Yeah.
Temps was co-starring. And Smokey would call rehearsals in between shows. And he started teaching us. Him and Ronnie White. Got to give Ronnie White some credit because he's on there and when you read the credits. And Smokey would rehearse us in between the shows. So when we went back to Detroit, we went into the studio and we put down the vocals to My Girl. But I said the daylight to that song was when Gil Lasky, Gil, because so many arrangements, put the strings on. And I said, oh, wow, this is a whole nother kind of song. And I went in the studio, in the control room where Smokey was. I said, Smokey, I don't know how big a record this is going to become, but this is going to be a huge record. Motown released My Girl December of 64. February of 1965, we were at the Apollo, and Berry sent us a telegram.
Number one.
Number one. And I got one from the world famous Beatles, and it's hanging up over on my wall.
Oh, wow. Oh, it's fantastic, isn't it? I think one of the things about this period in the Tamla Motown is this music is timeless, and it is joyful, joyous. And wherever you are in the world at the moment, if you turn the news on, it's pretty dark. And there's something about the Tamla Motown and these songs that just lifts your spirit, isn't there? There's just something about this music that's absolutely timeless.
You know what? I see this with more clarity as time would have it. Like I've always said on stage and even as an interview, Detroit has always primarily been known for the big three: Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler. But now I got to say Ford, General Motors, Chrysler, and Motown. Motown is under construction now. They're building, I think I'm safe in saying, a 3-story building that will house everything that Motown is known for, plus, because Motown is still going. And like I said, I never would imagine when we first signed with Motown, it was 3 2-story family flats, separate, and to see that. And then now when you come to Detroit, you can see the building of the new build part of Motown. But I've always said, Motown Records is no happenstance. I'm going to tell it like it really is. God and his infinite wisdom brought that little 2-story family flat at the beginning there in Detroit for a reason and on purpose. Naturally, that's right. Naturally, you give credit to Berry Gordy because you have to have somebody to bring it on through. But for it to happen now, primarily Chicago, Chicago for music, New York City, Memphis, muscle shows, certain cities, Yeah. Now Detroit get the same kind of recognition as those other cities and companies because they have never become the kind of huge that Motown record is known for today.
Yeah. One of the things that comes through in your autobiography and the television series is the deep friendship within the group, but also the heartbreak and pressures that came with fame. I mean, how difficult has it been carrying those memories through the years?
Well, it can be very difficult because we were so tight after we let Al go, and it was Paul, Eddie, David, Melvin, and myself. Like I said, and I tell people, you'll find out what kind of person you are when you become successful. So everybody can't deal with success in a mild-mannered, understanding kind of way. You think you can, because at the beginning you're hungry. You just want to hit records and make money. But the catching part is once you start making money, can you deal with handling good money? Everybody cannot do that. I've seen that, and so it can be another kind of testimonial kind of thing for you as a person and you for being in this world and being successful. So Nada, Michael Walden, and I were going to write a song about how you handle money, because I've seen some people make money and they get goo gaga crazy and everything, So I try to stay grounded.
Yeah, because you've been the steadying force that's helped guide the Temptations through the changing eras and lineups. I mean, do you feel the responsibility of kind of protecting the legacy at this stage, or is it a very natural thing for you to do?
Oh, well, I better because I fought and defended it for for 60 some odd years. Yeah, yeah. I guess that's the role God put me down here because, like I said, when we started out singing, I was one of the lead singers when we were the Distance, Otis
Yeah, yeah,
Williams.
yeah.
So, but after we signed with Motown and things started happening, I wanted us to become so successful. My ego didn't get in the way. Well, I'm the group leader. It's got to be mine. No, I didn't play that. I just said do what was necessary for the Temps to continue on,
Yeah.
and and then, like I said, smoking. Hey, call Otis. Berry, I got to get Otis on the phone. So next thing I'm sitting saying, why are they calling me? I just want to sing. But little did I know that was the role I was destined to be in the destiny role, the destiny of road that I had to, become far as handling. And mind you, I didn't say it in another interview. In my living room, I've had to deal with almost 30 different strong personalities, and I'm still here, and they are no longer.
Yeah, yeah. One of my favorite songs, Otis, is "Papa Was a Rolling Stone," and I do because I remember this very very much when I was at school, and it was obviously it's a big hit, but it was in many ways the way I feel about it is it was years ahead of its time by talking about a social observation about you know
Yeah.
a wayward dad, really. I mean, were you aware that this was quite different lyrically than the kind of other music that Motown acts were doing?
Well, I have to give credit to Norman Whitfield and Barry Strong. Norman Whitfield played on my first record when I was part of the Distance. He played tambourine. To see Norman Whitfield come from playing tambourine,
Yeah, yeah,
noted songwriter and producer, along with Barry Strong, because Barry Strong used to stay right around the corner from me. It is just a wonderful testimonial about how people can grow into certain roles that you never would imagine. Now,
yeah.
Papa was a Rolling Stone. Initially, we didn't want to record it, because we had made our first Grammy, Cloud Nine, and what is Ball of Confusion, a lot of those psychedelic soul. So we were kind of getting tired of that. And being out there on the road, the girl said, well, we like this psychedelic soul, but when you guys going to come back to singing, the ballads, the sweet ballads, and the Please Return Your Love, and Since I Lost My Baby.
Yeah, yeah.
So when it was time for us to go in the studio, Norman Whitfield and Barry Strong, Norman had recorded the track to Papa. And, it was just boom, 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 boom. We said, oh, come on, man. We want to get back to the ballads. So Norman said, Otis, y'all, I promise you, it's going to be a hit. Just go in and record it. So at the time, Dennis Edwards, Melvin Franklin, Richard Street, and a young man named Damon Harris were a part of the Temps. So I said, come on, fellas, let's go down into the studio and get this here and knock it on out because we had to fly to Hawaii. So we went in and did that. But when we came back to Detroit and we heard what Norman did to Papa Was a Rolling Stone, he added the strings, harps, and that bum, ba-da-dum, bum, ba-da-bum. I was there when my man put the horn. I said, this song is taking on a whole nother hue. And boy, I tell you, we got 2 Grammys for Papa Was a Rolling Stone. So you never know. And that shows the greatness of Norman Whitfield and Barry Strong for them to be straight ahead and say, no, this is going to be a hit. And Dennis, like it's been said, Dennis got kind of mad because his father died on 3rd of September. And he thought Norman and Barry were talking about his father. And Norman said, man, I didn't know about your father being born, passing on September the 3rd. He said, so I didn't know that. And like I said, the record is huge. At that time, it's still loved now because, like I said, that one I have 2 Grammys. So it's a wonderful experience.
Yeah, because it's such an unusual song in a way because there's no singing or vocals for a while.
Yeah,
so it's very different to what you would expect, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, Norman designed it that way because what would captivate you was all a beautiful instrumentation, the strings swinging and the bump, bum, bum, and the strings doing all those. So you
Yeah.
find yourself listening at all that good music, and then we'll come in. Dennis will come in, with the first line. So yeah, it was a true testimonial of the greatness of Norman Whitfield and Bear Strong.
But it's just fantastic. And the Broadway production, Ain't Too Proud, The Life and Times of the Temptations, has introduced you and the music to a totally different audience around the world. I mean, what was it like seeing your life unfold like that in front of you?
I went to the opening in New York City. Now, we saw it bits and pieces up in Berkeley, California, where they were really fine-tuning it and putting it together. But when I saw it in New York on Broadway, and all the people that were in that theater, and when it started, the play started off, I must say, I sat there and I cried, because you could have tipped me over with a feather for, I believe, my life story would be so successful on Broadway. And now it's back out again by another set of people and, doing very well. But I never would imagine my life story would be brought to Broadway. And the killing part about it, people loved it. As the halftime came about, and they took me to another part of the theater until it was time to start over for the second part. And all you could hear, "Ode, ode, ode." And I said, they doing that for me. And now it's when we perform, somebody did a T-shirt. "Ain't nobody come to see you, Otis." And then now they're saying, "We came to see you, Otis." So it's just been a very interesting metamorphosis of wonderful things that has happened to me concerning my life, because a lot of it I never would imagine.
I mean, as you say, Motown is family, and it's been part of your story. And one of the things when I was talking to Lawrence Payton Jr. was that he said, there was obviously a bit of rivalry between the bands, but equally he said it's a bit like a brotherhood, that how the bands have supported each other through the decades. I mean, is that how you feel about,
Oh,
the
absolutely.
other bands? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. See, I love the Four Tops because I saw Lawrence, his father, Lawrence.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, and they were one of the few black groups that we could think of that could sing that four-part modern harmony, like the Four Freshmen and the Highlows. Oh, the Four Tops, they would not get lost in singing those kind of songs. Primarily, we were raised listening to R&B and pop stuff, but Four Tops could sing that very sophisticated harmony because we tried to sneak in and hey, Showbar to sing, but we were too young. Your boy's too young. But Four Tops was singing that kind of songs and whatever. But then when they signed with Motown, they started singing that R&B and pop stuff. And next thing you know, they were having just as much success for them as the Temptations had for us.
I mean, your background is coming from a Baptist church. Was the other members of the Temptations, did they have similar backgrounds? Because obviously you're a very positive person, and obviously this kind of spiritual part of your life has been going alongside you all the way through the decades, hasn't it?
Yeah. Like I often tell people, I was raised by two great grandmothers, and they would instill that kind of, a way of life, and never forget God, because he's the one that you be here. And I even think him more so because, like I've always said, you could have tipped me over with a feather before I would believe. I've been doing this for over 60 years and been so successful at it. It's not no happenstance. That was by God's design for Motown. I just
Yeah. For all of you, yeah.
For all of us. So, and I had to say that at Barry's birthday last year. People were saying, "Yeah, Barry this, Barry this." So when they called me to come up there and say my thing about Barry, I said, "Well, I'm going to go a little bit higher than Barry. I'm going upstairs and thank God, then Barry." Because that's where you got to give credit to him, because Motown was not no happenstance. That was by design for that great company to come along in Detroit, which has primarily always been known for making cars. And yet they have a big world map, and they got little pins stuck all through it. And I had to, what do that mean? People from all parts of the world has been to Detroit to see Motown.
Yeah, so 60 years, and now you're about to be on stage with the Four Tops, your label brothers. I mean, how does this feel now in 2026? You're going out together, playing this joyous music to people. It's just going to, Well, it's just open their hearts. This is songs that whenever I put them on, me, my wife Sue, we just
Yeah.
literally feel like dancing around the room. I mean, it's just fantastic. How does it feel to be doing this year?
Oh, fine. It feels good to do it any year that you get out there on the stage and do it. So not only this year, but it's a thing of how much they love Motown's music and the kind of songs that was written. Because I got some good friends, Gamble and Huff out of Philadelphia,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
love Gamble and Huff's sound, but no recording company that I believe exists has got more greatness than Motown Records because Motown sent their acts to school to be taught how to carry themselves. And don't come out on the stage grabbing your private parts. Don't come out on the stage cussing people. No,
yeah.
we would. And I think by and large, that's why we are able to still be around. Derek he said, Otis, I want you to see something. He came and got me. And this young man brought his little boy, and I guess he couldn't have been no more than 5 years old because he had his little toy. You know what he was singing? Dee da dee da doo dee dee doo da. I said, wow. And the man, he said, I'm raising my son right with good music today. That's a testament. Anytime a man want to teach his child to sing good music, don't come out cussing and grabbing your private part. But then I have to think like this: everybody can't sing, so they rap.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
even dancing and everything. But finally, after everything you've achieved, Otis, I mean, what keeps you inspired to walk out on stage and perform these songs? Year after year, really. I mean,
because they're love songs. They love Motown's catalog. They love the Temps. They love any of Motown's great acts that have been so profoundly, accepted across the board. So that is another thing that keeps me going because it did not have to happen to me, but it did. So like I tell people, I'm going to ride the hell off the horse. When I get off the horse, it's going to be ball. That's a lot of riding.
It's fantastic. So, I mean, everybody watching or listening, the UK tour is on the 29th of June in Edinburgh, Scotland. We have 30th of June in Liverpool, 1st of July in Bournemouth, 3rd of July at Royal Albert Hall, which I believe is literally sold out, and also the Love Supreme Festival on the 4th of July. And if you want to find out more, go to the temptationsofficial.com. There's lots of history of the band and stuff to look at and listen to there. Thank you so much, Otis. This has been absolutely wonderful talking to you.
You are welcome so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, take care, and I hope the tour goes really well, and hopefully we'll talk again in the future when you come down the other end.
Let's repeat history again. Good.
A huge thank you to my special guest, Otis Williams from the Temptations, for joining me today. The story of the Temptations is more like music history in a way. And it is a story about resilience, friendship, artistry, dancing, power of songs to unite people across the generations. This is my second interview with a absolutely legendary band from the Motown record label. Obviously, the Four Tops being the first one, with Lawrence Payton Jr. But all of us who grew up with this music, hearing these songs is magical anyway. But these records have become part of our lives, our memories, emotions. Absolutely wonderful. And as I said during the interview, the Four Tops and the Temptations are over in the UK at the time of me doing this. And I've read out the dates, but I'll do it again. 29th of June in Edinburgh, Scotland, 30th of June in Liverpool, 1st of July in Bournemouth, 3rd of July, Royal Albert Hall, and the 4th of July, Love Supreme Festival, just outside of Brighton and Lewes. And the temptationsofficial.com if you want to find more out about Otis and the band themselves. But thank you for being here. Remember, music is the healer and the doctor. And music like this really is just avoid the news. Okay, if you need the headlines, okay, dip in, but then put on some Motown. This music is timeless. It's fantastic. I think that's where I'm heading after this anyway. But thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Remember, as I've said, we're here on We've got a podcast. We're on the website at nowspinning.co.uk. Visit the YouTube channel. We've got our own music store now on the website, selling CDs and box sets, vinyl, etc. We got a merch store. We got lots of stuff going on. And if you want to become a little bit closer to us, you can become a patron. And in return, you get access to our private communities, which is a wonderful, safe place for music fans to hang out on WhatsApp and also Facebook. And we have our own virtual pub called the Now Spinning Arms, which meets up twice a month via Zoom. So take care, all of you. Keep spinning those discs, and I'll talk to you all very, very soon.